Just Because I Can will be an outsider this afternoon, but worth keeping an eye on. He's trained by Judd Curl. And 2 horses from the Sleepy Gilbreth stable in the Challenge Championship, including the Long Knife, who finished second in the Grade 1 Leo Stakes earlier this year at the Remington Park Spring Meeting. As a freshman, he ran second in the Rainbow Futurity and then won the Texas Classic Derby last year as well at long shot odds. But one of the top contenders coming out of the Sleepy Gilbreth barn, the Long Knife. The Long Knife, a solid competitor with graded stakes experience, much like his stablemate. Winner of the 2012 Grade 1 Leo Stakes at Remington Park, and then went on for a victory in the Grade 1 Remington Park Invitational Championship, and that is Cold Cash 123. Beat a very stellar field last year in the 2012 Remington Park Invitational Championship. More than likely headed back to this race this year. Cold Cash 123 was crowned Remington Park's Horse of the Meet in 2012 while defending his AQHA World Champion title. From 5 more attempts in 2012, he scored only once in the Go Man Go handicap at Los Alamitos. Today's Challenge Championship is the Michigan Bred's first outing of the year, back on friendly soil. He has a perfect 2-for-2 record. The Sleepy Gilbreth trained Cold Cash 123 should be one of the heavy favorites in today's card topper, the Grade 2 $100,000 championship. You're watching the update here at Remington Park, and be sure to stay tuned with us here.
Quarter Racing Update Remington Park is brought to you by the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association, Speed Horse Magazine, Juniors of Oklahoma City, by Racing Free, and by Oklahoma Equine Hospital.
An official representative for horsemen in the state, the OQHRA administers race, benevolence, and scholarship programs, all to better the state of racing in the state of Oklahoma. Visit OQHRA.com.
Speed Horse Magazine, the industry's most widely read and respected magazine. Complete coverage of quarter horse racing and industry events. Sponsor of the Speed Horse Race Series. Visit speedhorse.com.
Racing Free is dedicated to acknowledging and rewarding the great people in racing who are racing free. In an effort to eliminate the use of performance-enhancing drugs, Racing Free offers incentives for all industry participants. Visit racingfree.com.
May 19th here at Remington Park, the OQHRA Regional Racing Experience will be taking place. This year hosting the Regional Racing Experience, where you can get an up-close and personal view of the inner workings of a racetrack. The event is open for ages 14 and up, and all those who are interested in learning more about the many facets of the quarter horse racing industry should definitely apply for this, one of the best experiences you can get at the racetrack. The OQHRA Regional Racing Experience is a full day of hands-on learning. You can get a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to operate a racing stable with some of the top trainers on the backside here at Remington Park. You can also get a glance at how the track operates on a day-to-day basis with some of the top racing officials here, seeing the jobs that take place to actually make a race day go on here at Remington Park. An opportunity to meet with some of the racing officials here and some of the other management and industry professionals here at the Regional Racing Experience. You can get more information or download an application for the May 19th Regional Racing Experience at OQHRA.com. The OQHRA Regional Racing Experience, Sunday, May the 19th, here at Remington Park. One of the great experiences, and actually I was a participant in one of those events. It was more on the AQHYA experience, but the regional experience is definitely one of the top that you can participate in, and the AQHA has done a fantastic job with that program in conjunction with the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association. I would definitely plan on being here May the 19th, and you can see just some of the exciting things that take place here on the backside and how it operates on a race card on a day-to-day basis. It really is for the true horse racing fan, and even if you're a casual fan, if you'd like to find more information about what it takes to put on a day of horse races here at Remington Park or any racetrack throughout the country, I highly suggest coming to the May 19th Regional Racing Experience. Going to take a look now at some of the History's Fastest Athletes, a weekly segment that we have coming up here, and this week's History's Fastest Athlete brought to you by worldsfastestathletes.com.
History's Fastest Athletes is sponsored by and produced in conjunction with Speed Horse Magazine. fold in 1985, the Sorrel filly Dash for Speed was bred in partnership with the legendary B.F. Phillips. Owned and raced by Bob Blakeman and Tom Bradbury, Dash for Speed was trained by Larry Keeter and ridden by Steve Fuller. She was a daughter of Dash for Cash and Mighty Speedy by Mighty Deck. With 8 starts in her 2-year-old year, Dash for Speed had 4 wins and 4 seconds. The year was capped off with a daylight tally in the Rainbow Futurity at Ruidoso. With her eyes set on the 3-year-old Triple Crown at the New Mexico track, Dash for Speed would easily destroy the fields in her trial and the final of the Kansas Derby. Up next were 2 more daylight tallies in the trial and final for the Rainbow Derby. And in the All-American Derby, she led from start to finish on a sloppy track. To this day, Dash for Speed is the only filly to win the Derby Triple Crown at Ruidoso. She was named the 1988 champion 3-year-old and 3-year-old filly by the AQHA. Campaigned at 4, Dash for Speed notched a victory in the Grade 1 Rainbow Silver Cup at Ruidoso, where she had become a potent force, having won 9 stakes races at the mountain. After a tally in the Grade 1 World Championship Classic, she ended her '89 campaign with the honor of being champion-aged mare as well as champion-aged horse. In 1990, Dash for Speed's owners sent her to the West Coast and the famous barn of Blaine Schwanneville. The goal was clear: a world championship for Dash for Speed. She started her 4th year of racing with a track record run at Los Alamitos in the Grade 1 Ann Burnett Handicap. Just 2 weeks later, while facing possibly one of the toughest fields ever assembled for the 440-yard Los Alamitos Championship, Dash for Speed, with a blistering time of 21.37 seconds, claimed her 9th Grade 1 win. In the most prestigious event for older quarter-horse runners, the Champion of Champions, Dash for Speed went wire to wire in what would be her last race ever, leading to her coronation as World Champion of 1990. Dash for Speed had a lifetime record of 22 wins, 4 seconds and 2/3 in 31 starts. $0.2 million in earnings and a record 10 Grade 1 victories. Dash for Speed, one of history's toughest, most competitive, and fastest athletes.
Speed Horse Magazine, the industry's most widely read and respected magazine. Complete coverage of quarter horse racing and industry events. Sponsor of the Speed Horse Race Series. Visit speedhorse.com.
Great segment there on Dash for Speed, a champion through and through from the time that she's set foot on the racetrack, and a millionaire back in the late 80s, so a well-accomplished horse there on Dash for Speed. You can catch that segment of history's fastest athletes and all the others on the website worldsfastestathletes.com. Going to head to a quick break, but coming back on the other side of the break, we'll have trainer Henry Smith, who will send out SRD Bobwirebob coming up in the Remington Park Oklahoma Distance Challenge Championships. He'll try to take down a field of 9 later on in the card today. We'll talk with Henry about his chances and more on the other side of the break here on the Quarter Racing Update.
Quarter Racing Update Remington Park is brought to you by the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association, Speed Horse Magazine, Juniors of Oklahoma City, by Racing Free, and by Oklahoma Equine Hospital.
Somewhere there's music, I'll faint the tune. Somewhere there's heaven, how high the moon. There is no moon above when love's far away too, till it comes true. That you love me as I love you. Somewhere there's music, I'm near and far.
An official representative for horsemen in the state, the OQHRA administers race, benevolence, and scholarship programs, all to better the state of racing in the state of Oklahoma. Visit OQHRA.com.
Feature Race Spotlight is sponsored by Oklahoma Equine Hospital. The defending champion of the Grade 3 Red Cell Remington Distance Challenge is DePassam Okie, and you can expect the 7-year-old to be tough in this year's running as well. Trained by Rodney Reed, the AQHA Distance Champion of 2010 and 11, started this year's campaign with a second in the Pauls Valley Handicap on April 7th. 20 days later, DePassam Okie won an allowance test at the 870-yard distance, the distance at which he's won 19 of 34 attempts, otherwise in the money on 9 other occasions. Apollo Rocks ran 4th behind DePassam Okie in the April 27th allowance. He'll be an outsider in the distance challenge, but he is multiple stakes placed. Don't be surprised to see this Sam Howard trainee land in the money on Sunday. Doc's Dusty Okie, owned by Dusty Rose Ranch, came off a year-long layoff when he started in the Pauls Valley. He ran 3rd behind O Cooper Go and DePassam Okie. In the 2011 Aggie Stakes, Doc's Dusty Okie set a new Remington 550-yard track record, which still stands today. He's trained by Cristino Estrada. SRD Bobwirebob is a 4-year-old Oklahoma bred who won his first race at 870 yards last October. His first event of 2013 was the Pauls Valley Handicap, when he broke on top and displayed his usual early speed, but then mismanaged the turn and failed to return as a factor in the race. He fared much better in his next out, the aforementioned allowance around the hook on April 27th. Again, Bobwirebob jumped out early and led throughout until he was passed by DePassam Okie and White Lightning at the wire. SRD Bobwirebob, trained by Henry Smith for owner Sheila Dorgan. Feature Race Spotlight has been brought to you by Oklahoma Equine Hospital, featuring rehab facilities that include an underwater treadmill and a cold saltwater spa. 2 locations just off I-35 at Oswald Road and at Ladd Road.
The Red Cell Remington Distance Challenge, a Grade 3 event, will feature a field of 9 horses set to go the distance of 870 yards. And one of the trainers that will be sending out a horse in that race, SRD Bobwirebob, Henry Smith, is going to join us now on set here on the Quarter Racing Update. Henry, talk about this horse a little bit. He's pretty versatile. He was a qualifier down at Hialeah in a Derby going down the straightaway at 400 yards. Talk about the versatility of this horse.
Bobwirebob has extreme gait speed, and that's been his strength. Early on in his career, he always showed he wanted to run a little further. We decided to stretch him out at the request of the owners. We waited until the end of his 3-year-old year where he had a little success. We brought him back in, and he sure shows he can go the distance. We hope he exhibits the same gait speed this morning or this afternoon, and he can get there, I think.
And talk about this horse. I mean, in your program, you're really not scared to test a horse out. I mean, this horse has run some shorter distances and some longer distances, so he really seems to fit into your training program that you're willing to try, pretty much anything with the horse to find what best suits them.
Right. We listen a lot to the riders in the morning, and a horse that we think wants to go further, we'll start putting them into a training regiment that fits their needs, and build a bottom end on them, inject a little speed, and see what we end up with. He's showing us all the attributes. He's still young. He's learning. He's a young 4-year-old, and if he does that, he'll turn out to be a pretty nice horse.
Now, I have to ask before we continue on with this, as a former track announcer, you do come up with some names that make me scratch my head a little bit. This is a homebred for Sheila Dorgan, SRD Bobwirebob. How did we get there?
Well, there's no mystery here. Bobwirebob, at the young age of 5, crawled underneath their fence, and there happened to be a barbed wire fence on the back side of it, and he ended up with 104 stitches in his left shoulder and countless stitches in his right shoulder, and They don't bother him, and he exhibits them well every time you see him.
Obviously not, because he's turned out to be a pretty fine racing athlete. What was the indicator for you that he could go 870 yards? He'd been running kind of longer distances on the straightaway as a younger horse. What was the key factor for you that said, you know what, this horse can really benefit going around the turn?
I really believe the time that set it off for us was a ride that Randy Wilson made on him in Tulsa last year, and Randy came back and basically said, you got to stretch this horse out. He goes, I couldn't pull him up. And then consequently, Will Rogers, when he won that 870 as an inaugural 870 out, the outrider picked up Randy on the backside and came back, and she was chuckling a little bit and said Randy was crying uncle. He goes, he was still going. And so the horse has always shown he's wanted to go a little further. His mom's a thoroughbred. While that doesn't always make a difference, it's injected a little bit of bottom end, and he's got good gate speed.
You mentioned that. Do you believe that has a strong factor with a thoroughbred breeding influence on his pedigrees by Cronus Prospect? But do you factor that in when you have horses, is the breeding? You know,
I believe it's an indicator, but we let the horse tell us where they want to run. All the good 870 horses I've ever had, Kells Jeter Lane, obviously a Devon Lane horse, Shakota Dale being out of a thoroughbred mare, it tends to give them a little better bottom end. The training you inject in them takes advantage of it, and I believe it helps.
You've been a pretty active participant in this race. You mentioned Kells Jeter Lane and, of course, Shakota Dale. How does this horse stack up in this field? You actually seen some of these horses with other horses you've trained before. How is he coming along into this race compared to his most recent 870 start?
Well, you know, it's interesting. This horse is learning every trip, and I think he's going to continue to get better and better. You know, if I compared him against some of the good ones, Kells Jeter Lane and Shakota Dale, he's got a little different attribute. He's got the gate speed to stay out of trouble, and if he continues to hit the brake the way he has, and his bottom end comes in on the end, I think we'll be just fine. I think he has the makings of a real nice horse.
So there's a field of 9 here. Usually we run 8 horses at Remington Park when they're going the 870 distance, but a special occasion here, being that it's the distance challenge race, every horse trying to get in and get their shot to go to Los Alamitos. You drew a great post. You can't argue with the 1 hole. Were you pretty excited about drawing that post position?
Oh, we were ecstatic. And considering that's the 3rd time in a row we've drawn the 1 hole, I couldn't say enough about it. I would have preferred to be out in the 3 and 4, gives you a little better angle at the turn. But at this track, anything inside the 4 hole is a definite advantage. It's tough with the world-class field to get there from the outside. So it made us happy.
So you've got a field of 9 in this race. The horse has been training well coming up to the race. But we've got some tough horses in this race. There's Deep Passamoki, who's coming into this race, who is a previous AQHA distance champion. DM streaking through fire. It's not very often you see a horse that qualifies to the Rainbow Derby and the All-American Derby come back and run at an 870 race. So, I mean, there's some pretty credentialed horses in this race. How do you feel about your chances today?
Boy, like you said, it's a deep and very talented field. Maybe one of the best 870 races we've had at Remington for a long time. And if Bob stays true to form and makes the break, a lot of the good contenders are on the outside. But it's deep. I mean, that Stormcat horse next to us is going to be pretty tough.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we've got our work cut out for us, and we're going to have to run the race of our life to win.
Well, good post position, Henry. Thanks for your time, and good luck to you today in the Remington Park Oklahoma Distance Championship.
Thank you.
We're going to head to another break here before we get to our top selections here in the featured races on the program. But before we do, we just had some trials for the Heritage Place Futurity, the featured event here, $1 million race that takes place on closing day at Remington Park. Let's take a look at a few of the top contenders here coming out to this race. 2 nights of trials for one of the most difficult races in the nation, really, and definitely the top field here coming into this race. There it is. The finals will take place Saturday, June the 1st for the $1 million Heritage Place Futurity. 2 nights of trials. The first night took place on May the 10th. And we'll take a look at the fastest qualifier coming into that race. He's Relentless.
Start for Walking Perry, almost went into the air totally. He's Relentless out sharply and is on the lead. He's Relentless there by more than a length, trying to pour it on now to keep the advantage up by 2. Juliana chasing second. Walking Perry, a belated bid, way too little, too late after a brutal start. Off and running. He's Relentless by more than 4.
Most impressive effort there from He's Relentless, a 4-length winner for owner Tom Maher, trainer Amber Blair, and jockey Cody Smith, posting the fastest time of the 2 nights. Here's a look from night number 2, the fastest qualifier.
They're off. Well, contact. This Kenny says by Wagon Tails, but they're out together and rolling along together as well. They're all the way up by a length. Wagon Tails to the inside with the white blinkers. This Kenny says love outside, and this Kenny says by now giving way to Wagon Tails. Wagon Tails pulling clear, and Wagon Tails win it by a full length. This Kenny says by a valiant.
Wagon Tails on night number 2, posting the fastest time of the second night of trials for owner J&B Enterprises, trainer Judd Curl, and jockey Rodrigo Vallejo. So those 2 horses will be featured in the finals this Saturday, June the 1st. The featured event, a $1 million Heritage Place Futurity, the top race here at Remington Park for 2-year-olds. Going to head to another quick break, but when we come back, we'll be joined by Racing Free's Danielle Bryan for some of the top selections here on Bank of America Challenge Championship Day at Remington Park. Stay with us.
Speed Horse Magazine, the industry's most widely read and respected magazine. Complete coverage of quarter horse racing and industry events. Sponsor of the Speed Horse Race Series. Visit speedhorse.com.
An official representative for horsemen in the state, the OQHRA administers race, benevolence, and scholarship programs, all to better the state of racing in the state of Oklahoma. Visit OQHRA.com.
Somewhere there's music, I'll faint the tune. Somewhere there's heaven, how high the moon. There is no moon above when love is far away too. Till it comes true that you love me as I love you. Somewhere there's
And welcome back to the quarter racing update, and one of the featured races here on this 11-race program for Challenge Championships here at Remington Park is the Mariel Distaff Challenge. And one of the top contenders coming into that race will be Cruisin' the Wagon. Moving into the barn now of trainer Eddie Willis. She'll break from post number 6 under jockey Jimmy Brooks for Reliance Ranches LLC. Second in the Decada Stakes last time out here at Remington Park. She'll be making her 3rd start of the season. Already an earner more than $330,000 in her career. She's picked up 11 victories and 17 career starts, and she'll be one of the top contenders in the Mariel Distaff Challenge here at Remington Park. Joined now by Racing Free's Danielle Bryan. We did pretty well last time for the Remington Park Oklahoma Bred Futurity and Derby, and we're going to be back at it here for a few of our top selections on the 11-race card here. There's actually 4 challenge races. We're going to focus in on 3 of those, and starting out with the Mariel Distaff Challenge, a $40,000 stakes race for the Distaffers. That's the fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, and they're set to go 400 yards in a pretty competitive field of 10 here in this race, Danielle.
Absolutely.
I took a look at number 9, Corona Might Go. This horse is coming out of the barn of trainer Stacy Charette Hill. Cody Jensen's going to have the return call here. 4th in the Decada last time behind Cruisin' the Wagon. But I think this horse, Danielle, getting the outside post position draw, has a little bit better chance here.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. The outside's been a very fast position to be in. It's not my first choice, but I definitely couldn't disagree with that one.
I'm going to take a guess and say that you're going to go with Cruisin' the Wagon, with Reliance Ranches, of course, being the main supporters and backers of Racing Free.
I did.
Talk about this horse. You got any kind of inside information or storylines on this horse for us?
This is a filly I know her very well. I know how she works very well. Reliance Ranches own. She's won many times with Racing Free. She's won many times at this distance, so I think she's just going to keep proving her talent, especially here at Remington Park.
This horse is definitely one of the most accomplished in the field, $330,000 in earnings. That's actually my second choice in here, but Cruisin' the Wagon should be pretty difficult to handle here in this race.
Yes.
And you actually went with number 9.
Yes.
Corona Might Go for second. So we have similar picks in that race. We both agreed on the 3rd place choice, though, and that's going to be number 2, She's Just Toxic.
Yep. Dean
Fry is going to bring this horse in from Los Alamitos. What have you noticed about being you're not really, I can't call you an amateur handicapper anymore.
I still want to call myself that, though.
You moved up to the beginner ranks anyway, but She's Just Toxic. What have you noticed about horses that come in from Los Alamitos? Does that affect how you play the races at all?
I mean, not really. She had a good enough work on April 26th and impressive enough out here at Remington Park. I think that she'll be able to adapt to being here in this environment. I don't think it's going to play an effect on her. I think she's going to perform very well today.
She's Just Toxic will be pretty tough. Let's take a look here at the summary of picks here in the Mariel Distaff, and that's going to be number 9, Corona Might Go. Yes. You like the 6, Cruisin' the Wagon, and I also like number 6, Cruisin' the Wagon for second. But She's Just Toxic, one of the top contenders, coming from an inside post position draw. Let's take a look now at the distance challenge. We just had Henry Smith on here with SRD Bobwirebob. 870 yards is the distance here, and these are the distance horses for the quarter horse breed. Field of 9 here set to go to the post. Who did you kind of focus in on as one of the top contenders here, Danielle?
On my top, I went with Distaff. I think you can't really go wrong there putting him on the top. It's his race. It's his distance. He's had a couple of good outs this year, and I'm having faith that he's going to pull through here at Remington Park.
And a previous distance champ. One of the top horses since being claimed at Fairmeadows at Tulsa a few years ago. This horse has made $450,000 in his career. Pretty tough to do when you're running the 870 distance, but if you'll notice on those horses' past performance line, he's going for his 20th win at the distance. So definitely one of the top contenders here in this race. I actually like Emperor Valerian.
Okay.
I think this horse, when I called the races last year, Will Rogers Downs, he was very impressive, and he actually won the distance challenge at Will Rogers. We have a similar race to that they run here at Remington Park. Didn't go to the challenge after, or he actually did and ran third behind All About Larry and Passamaquoddy. And All About Larry actually just won the New Mexico Distance Championship, so he'll be headed back to Los Alamitos this fall as well. But I think the 4-post is a good draw for him. We talked to Henry Smith earlier. He said anything kind of outside the 5 you don't really want to be in, and that's where Passamaquoddy, he's in the 6. So I think that's the only thing that's going to hurt him in this race, but Emperor Valerian breaking from post number 4. To round out my trifecta, I actually like number 2, Stray Cat. Coming out of the barn of trainer Raymond Vargas. Interesting story about Stray Cat. He's my third choice. You're getting a look at the picks there on the screen now. He's the only quarter horse sired by Stormcat. Is one of the most prominent thoroughbred sires, and recently just passed away. But if you talk about distance pedigree, you definitely get it there with Stray Cat, and was 4th last time out in the Sunland Distance Challenge Championships. You'll notice DM Streaking Through Fire and All About Larry, who won the championships last year, was in that race. So
can't go wrong there either.
Any sleepers you're kind of looking at here in the distance race?
You know, I went with, of course, Passamaquoddy on the top. I definitely want to throw in DM Streaking Through Fire in my second position. I think he's a horse you can't really ignore. You know, very decorated at all distances. I think he's really going to perform well here, and the G.R. Carter Toby Keaton combination is a good way to go. So he was my second, and then I threw in SRD Bobwirebob. Not only is he a racing free member horse, but you know, this is his track. He's good at this track, and I like his position here.
And you mentioned DM Streaking Through Fire. Not oftentimes you see a horse that's a multiple grade 1 finalist become an 870 horse. I mean, that just really shows the type of talent that's in this race in the Remington Park Distance Championship.
Absolutely.
Feature race. This is the big one, race 11 on the 11 race card. It's the Grade 2 Bank of America Oklahoma Challenge Championship, a $100,000 purse, and really of the challenge series and the regional challenge series, how you qualify for the challenge championships, you have to win one of these qualifying races in the regions, and really I think this is the top region. I mean, this is a very, very difficult region to qualify from. So we've got a field of 10 here set to go to the post for 440 yards, the classic distance. Who are we looking at as a top choice here, Danielle? I
mean, I had to go with Cold Cash 123 for my top choice. He's the man. I mean, I really want to see him come out on top here in this race, and I think he's got the numbers, you know, to make it happen.
And unfortunately, we didn't get to hear from Sleepy Gilbert this morning. We kind of ran over into training hours, or training hours ran over into the show today, so probably still at the barn. But you're getting a look at his win last year in the Remington Championship, in the Remington Park Championship, and he was actually named Horse of the Meet here at Remington Park. So this is a horse that definitely has an affinity for Remington Park, and he gets a good post position draw, number 3, and Roy Baldiaz is aboard, who's you know, obviously the stable rider, you might say, for Sleepy Gilbert. So that horse is going to be very tough, but I actually like the other horse that Sleepy trains in here. And that's going to be the Long Knife. Winner last year in the Texas Classic Derby, a Grade 1 event. And this horse is really coming along pretty well. Sleepy kind of has an affinity for training quality geldings. He's got Ochoa, who was the champion 3-year-old last year. He's got the Long Knife in this race. He's also got Cold Cash 123, and of course, who can forget the Refrigerator? You know, obviously one of the all-time greats. So he's got an affinity here. I like that this horse gets an outside post draw and G.R. Carter aboard on the Long Knife. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a difference maker. Who do you got? You got the Long Knife in there, but who are you kind of looking as maybe a long shot horse in here?
I had the Long Knife for second, and then I threw in BF Farm Boy for there. Larry Payne aboard. You know, led him to a strong first place and had a good first place finish on April 21st. I think he's going to do it again. Yeah.
And on our preview, we had BF Farm Boy.
Yes.
This is actually a full brother to a horse by the name of Stronkins.
Okay.
Stronkins won the Challenge Championships at Los Alamitos.
Yes.
In his 5-year-old season, I believe, was trained by Paul Jones for the same connections, Don Boyle from Los Angeles. So this horse definitely has the pedigree. He's got the credentials to do it. He won last time out with Larry Payne aboard. He climbs back aboard for Bill Harris. And Bill Harris actually has connections, too. He trained a half-brother to this horse.
I threw him in there for all those reasons as well.
Exactly, right? So this horse definitely has the credentials, and I think he's going to be a tough contender here in this race. And if you're looking for an outside horse, we mentioned Wagons West. He's just a 3-year-old, so he could be running in the Derby series here of the Challenge. But they're really wasting no time. Alfredo Gomez and Wade Helton, they're going to go right for the big money here. And I think this horse has a chance. He ran behind First Prize Jordan last time out at Wagon Her Tail. This horse has been facing some tough competition. And yeah, it's a big step up in class here today to face the older horses, but I think he's, he might have a chance. He might have a chance, but the one post is something he's going to have to overcome. But Omar Reyes seems to check out with this horse pretty well. He seems to be what makes him tick. So we got pretty exciting races here. I'm going to go with the 9, 3, and 6, or 9, 3, and 7 in this race. You actually went with the 3, 9, 7 in this race. So we got similar picks there. We'll see how we do this week. We had a good week a couple weeks ago for the finals of the Remington Park Oklahoma Bred Derby and Futurity. So we're on the right track. And there's a look at the picks: 9, 3, and 7 for myself here. The Long Knife, Colt Cash 1, 2, 3, and BF Farm Boy in the Challenge Championships. Another look at the rundown of races here on the 11 race program here at Remington Park. The Mariole, Oklahoma, or Remington Park Distaff Challenge. That's for the fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. We'll follow that up with the Red Cell Remington Park Distance Challenge, a Grade 3 event here at Remington Park. And, of course, the featured race, race number 11 at Remington Park. And that will be the $100,000, little over $100,000 Bank of America Oklahoma Challenge Championship. That's going to do it for our special edition here of the Quarter Racing Update at Remington Park. Danielle Bryan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, and Happy Mother's Day to everybody.
Happy Mother's Day. Yes. My mom, Leanne, is on set with us here today. She made the trek all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. Love it. Just to be here. Not really, but she came to visit here, and glad that she could join us on set. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers watching the Quarter Racing Update at Remington Park. Got just 2 special editions left here, and of course, don't forget to keep tuning in on the week-to-week shows with Dale Day as we wind down towards the final day of our series here. And the last featured show will, of course, be the June 1st episode featuring the finals of the $1 million Heritage Place Futurity. For Danielle Bryan, Keith Stallbury, and everybody here at the Quarter Racing Update, thanks for joining us. Happy Mother's Day, and we'll see you again.
Quarter Racing Update Remington Park is brought to you by the Oklahoma Quarter Horse Racing Association, Speed Horse Magazine, Juniors of Oklahoma City, by Racing Free, and by Oklahoma Equine Hospital.